and welcome to today's presentation on Tourette syndrome. I'm Noah Schlicksup. I'll be guiding you through this here today. I'm 14 years old, 8th grade. I'm from St. John's, Florida, and I enjoy, a little bit about me, I enjoy all things sports, broadcast for Creekside High School. I did interviews with professional and collegiate athletes and broadcasters. And I'm also a youth ambassador for the Tourette Association of America. I just joined this year, and it's been an honor to help spread the awareness and try to help kids like me and my brother as well who struggle with this and the co-occurring conditions that come with it. So today we'll be talking about what Tourette syndrome is, the tics that go along with it, and what it feels like to have TS, as we call it, how it's portrayed in the media. A little bit of a Q&A is what I'm supposed to do, but it's kind of hard virtually here. And then some resources to help you learn more about this. So first off, what is Tourette syndrome? So I'm going to start by asking if any of you have heard of it. And a little bit about it. People are born with TS. They can't do anything to get it. You can't catch Tourette syndrome. It's not contagious. It's not a virus or anything. There's no known cure yet, but there are medications you can take to help. Some work, some don't, and none of them really truly get rid of it. And people born with TS have it for their entire lives. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, and I can rarely say that in one mouthful, but I did it there. Neuro means it occurs in the brain and nervous system, and developmental means that Tourette syndrome occurs and changes as the brain and nervous system is growing. Everyone's brain and bodies have chemicals that act as messengers and stop signs. So when someone wants to raise their hand, the messengers will run from the brain to the arm and tell them to move. When someone no longer wants to raise their hand, the messengers stop. For many people, the messengers pay attention to the stop signs, but for people like me with TS, there's one of my tics. When you talk about it, they'll happen more often when you think about it and stuff. But for people with TS, those messengers keep running and do not pay attention to the stop signs. This is what a person with TS experiences or feels as tics. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Anyone can have Tourette syndrome. It affects all races, ethnicities, genders, and ages, and TS is a lifelong condition. It's a medical condition. 1 out of every 160 children between the ages 5 and 17 in the United States have Tourette syndrome, and 1 out of every 100 children has Tourette syndrome or another tic disorder, and 50% of them go undiagnosed. It's quite common, I'll be watching on TV, and mainly sports is what I watch, and I'll see these people doing these sort of tics-like movements where they're, blinking uncontrollably or doing certain things with their head, and it's kind of like fun to kind of look and be like, oh, he might have Tourette's or be undiagnosed with that. And like I said, it is a medical condition, like, for example, asthma, hearing impairment, and it's not usually anyone's fault. They have a medical condition. It's just something you learn how to manage. My mom has been a huge help with me, and my brother, she's the one who, her and my dad looked into this a lot. They learned about it, and they've really helped us throughout our journey with this. Doctors define a tic as an involuntary, sudden, rapid, or repetitive movement or sound. Tourette syndrome cannot be cured, but there are treatments and medicines that can help manage the symptoms. And now, let's get into those tics. So, does anybody really know what a tick is? I know you may think it is a bug. That is that is correct, but it's not. It's not a tick here. That's TICK, which is a bug, but not what I'm talking about here. Tick is an uncontrollable movement or sound that someone makes, and I have ticks, and as you saw in my last couple slides there, they are pretty noticeable when I do them, even though I have a mild case. Tick is an uncontrollable movement or sound when a person's brain makes their body move or say something that they may not want to. A tick is like an urge to sneeze, cough, or scratch an itch. You can't really control it. Or blinking is another good one. And it's actually a tick that a lot of people have where they blink. I roll my eyes and blink. It hurts a lot sometimes, but I can't really do anything about it. And it takes a lot of energy and becomes all that you can focus on. And when you focus on it, it happens more, and that's just not fun. There are two types of ticks. There are motor ticks, movements that cannot be controlled. For example, wiggling the arms is one. Shoulder rolls, moving your head like this. I actually caught that from an Olympic swimmer that I interviewed who has Tourette's, Anthony Irvin, and he moved his head like this. And my Tourette's thought that would be fun to copy, and then they thought it felt good, so I was doing that. But luckily, one of those treatments that I had out in Gainesville was able to get rid of that. But that's not really part of the point right now. And then vocal tics are the other types, like the time I squeaked earlier when I'm in the presentation. It's sounds or speech that can't be controlled. Here are some examples of motor tics. Motor tics usually involve just one group of muscles. For example, eye blinking, facial grimacing. I have this thing called the bunny nose, as me and my mom like to call it, where I scrunch up my nose like I'm trying to clear something from it. Head bobbing, jerking, shoulder shrugging, neck stretching, arm jerking. That's some things. Sometimes it's a full body roll, as Samuel J. Comroe, comedian on AGT, put it. Complex motor tics those are simple motor tics. Complex motor tics, on the other hand, usually involve multiple muscle groups or combinations of movements. Examples: hopping, twirling, jumping, sticking out the tongue, in some cases kissing, pinching, and tearing of paper or books. People with either one of these, whether it's simple or complex, cannot control them. Vocal tics include sniffling, throat clearing, grunting, hooting, or shouting are some examples of those simple motor tics. And then complex vocal tics include words or phrases that may or may not be recognizable, but that may occur out of context. Some examples of those, you don't expect to hear them, but it's repeating words or phrases, or even making animal sounds. Some people do that as well. Again, we cannot control them. Squeaking, screeching is one that I have. We cannot control them, no matter how bad we want to. Special types of complex tics include, there are 4 types of them. Coprolalia, involuntary utterance of words and phrases that can be obscene or socially inappropriate. And that's kind of what Tourette's is like stereotypically known for, whether it's swearing or something like that. And it's only 10% of people with Tourette syndrome actually do that. That is not just what Tourette syndrome is, as you can see from this presentation. Copropaxia. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. I'm terrible at pronunciation sometimes, but Involuntary, obscene, or socially unacceptable gestures. I think you guys kind of understand what that is. Echolalia, involuntary repeating of words and phrases said by others. I've had this at times throughout my life where if something doesn't sound right, my brain keeps saying I have this urge in my throat. It's like a rock in there, and it stays there. Sometimes it gets hard to breathe. I start ticking more everywhere, and then I have to say it. And once I do say it, I may repeat it over and over again until it sounds correct to my Tourette syndrome, as I like to say, like it's a person up there. It kind of is, and I can't control it. And then another thing that I've dealt with is palalia, which is involuntary repeating of my own words. Again, we cannot control these, and it's something that we just kind of have to learn to live with and manage. Tics can change from mild to severe. Tics can change over time in type, frequency, and severity. Lifestyle factors can worsen symptoms. This happens at school a lot, where, the common stress, anxiety that school brings to a lot of people, especially once you get into middle school and high school, is where these things can really affect you, make tics go up. And those tics, I dealt with this a lot in middle school, where the stress made the tics get worse, and I worried about the tics, what people would think about them. A lot of kids get bullied for them, and it's just really, unfortunate. Tics go up and down. They worsen a lot when you experience that stress, anxiety. If you're really excited, you might start ticking. If you are really angry, that might happen. If you're tired, that fatigue there, or if you are sick. Co-occurring conditions come along with Tourette syndrome. I have multiple of these, including ADHD. Me and my brother both have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, or behavior problems, anxiety, depression, mood problems, difficulty with social skills and relationships, that's social anxiety, sleeping problems, and rage. I unfortunately have had experience with all of these throughout my life. It's kind of tough for sure as a kid, but it's just kind of something, again, that we have to learn to manage. So, I experienced for a little while what it's like to have Tourette syndrome, a little bit what it feels like. Like I said earlier, it's sort of like a sneeze, blinking, coughing, that urge that you can't really hold back. I'm not there to distribute paper and pens, but if you guys can do that, that would be really helpful for this next exercise that we have here. So research shows that it takes an average student 90 seconds to write the Pledge of Allegiance. So what I want you guys to do here is write the Pledge of Allegiance. Remember that having Tourette syndrome can make simple things difficult. So while you do this, you're going to have to tick. So the tick will be touching your pinky finger with the hand that you are writing with on the table, desk, whatever's in front of you. And every time I clap, you will need to tick. So I'll give you 90 seconds to write the pledge. Neatness is being counted, and you are being graded. So I'm going to set a 90-second timer here, and just remember, every time I clap, you're going to need to touch your pinky finger on the desk. Stop what you're doing, stop what you're writing, and you have to do that. So let me pull up a 90-second timer here. All right. Start. Oh, that was loud. Another loud one. there is the timer. If you finished, congratulations, I guess I could say. We only got 60 seconds when we did it on the ambassador training, so you got 30 extra there. But so now you know a little bit about how Tourette syndrome feels if you have TES. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Tourette syndrome in the media. So by media we mean, social media. Memes has been big with us. Movies, television, books, you name it. So let's get into it here. So Tourette syndrome in the media. First I'm going to ask you what you've heard about TS in the media, like what I said there, social media, any of that kind of stuff. I know you can't answer, but just kind of think about stuff you have heard about TS. And I want you to think about how this is different than what we discussed here today. The media often portrays Tourette syndrome in a way that is incorrect and sometimes hurtful. And now that you know the facts about Tourette syndrome, you can help others understand Tourette better. Tourette syndrome is not a joke. We want you to, one way to support the Tourette Association is to pledge to stop using TS as a punchline today. So the pledge we have here is I pledge to stop using Tourette syndrome as a punchline, a descriptive term or slur. I pledge to speak out, educate, and to inspire others, and to be open-minded and break free of the stigmas that surround this disorder. I pledge to create a world where people are seen for who they are and not for their tics. And I want you to pledge to be the change for the Tourette community. You can visit Tourette.org and TourettePledge.org and sign in to share the pledge. So right here, just want to recap what you've learned today. So what I've talked about so far is Tourette syndrome is a medical condition. It is not contagious. People who have Tourette syndrome are born with it. Tics are movements that a person cannot control. People with Tourette's have this for their entire lives, even though their tics may change. Encourage others not to make fun of people with a medical condition like this. If you see someone being bullied, stick up for the person, or just help out. And then people with Tourette syndrome are just like everyone else. We're just kids. We may have sounds that we make, movements we make, co-occurring conditions that cause us struggles in our life, but in the end, we're just the kid. We just come to school to learn, to try to make friends, fit in, and this is just something that makes it a little harder for us, but it's not who we are. We are still kids. So we have a survey here that you can we have the link at the bottom and something you can scan here. We want to know what you think about the presentation on Tourette syndrome and your ideas for improving it. Please, to do this, you can scan the QR code on this PowerPoint slide with your iPhone or tablet. Open up the questions we would like you to answer. We will not ask your name, so no one will know which answers came from you. And thank you so much for listening to this presentation. You can to learn more about Tourette syndrome, you can visit the Tourette Association of America website, tourette.org, and the Florida chapter here, the email is info@tsa-florida.org. So now I'm going to talk just a little bit about how Tourette syndrome and its co-occurring conditions affected me during my time at school to kind of help you guys out teaching kids with this. So one thing that, first off, I had one of my co-occurring conditions is dysgraphia. So dysgraphia is a writing disability. whenever I write, especially with a pencil. I can't write for long periods of time without my hand hurting really, really bad, to the point where I can't write anymore. And it was really tough. This affected me a lot in 5th grade, where I had a teacher who didn't believe me when I told her about this, and there were these pens that I could use that made it a little better, and so I could write for a while longer. She, however, did not listen and would not let me use these pens, and I fell behind. My grades were, I was getting punished for it. My grades were, I was getting C's, and there were things on my paper saying I needed to write more when I simply couldn't. I was getting punished, like I said, for it. I had to stay in from recess to, write more on these things. I fell behind in my work. I had to do my assignments in recess, which, as a kid with Tourette syndrome and ADHD, you greatly look forward to recess in that kind of day when you can get a lot of that energy that's built up inside of you out. I also struggle with anxiety and social anxiety, believe it or not, even though I talk with professional athletes and all my heroes. It's around kids my own age where I really struggle just walking up and talking to them. And it causes a lot of stress in my life, and that stress makes tics go up. And with those tics, you guys, of course, that are watching this video are teachers. So if in your class there is someone experiencing a tic, something I advise is, I've been in this situation in 7th grade, middle school. I had to tic a lot in my classes. It's very stressful for me as a student, so I had to tic a lot in class, and I did it in class. I got weird looks, and it was really tough for me. A lot of kids get bullied for it, really, really bad. It's tough, and as a teacher in that situation, from the kid's perspective, if I were the student asking the teacher what to do in this situation, I would ask you to, at the time, ignore what's going on, and then after class or whenever you get the time, just pull them aside and ask if they're willing to share, so these kids will understand a little bit better that you can't control this. You're not just doing this to make a joke or anything. Another thing that really helps as this kid with Tourette syndrome is breaks, where that stress has gone up, and you have to tic or your tics are up, and you can take a break during that time to get out of the classroom, not do that in front of your friends and disturb the class. And with increase in stress, excitement, any major emotion, those tics will skyrocket, and that's really tough from a kid's perspective in a classroom, especially when with the social life you live nowadays. If you want to learn a little bit more about my journey with Tourette syndrome, I gave a speech in front of Congress for the Tourette Association back in March, and it's on my YouTube channel, Schlick Sports. It's just 8 minutes long, and you can go check that out, learn more about my journey with Tourette syndrome, and more. Thank you guys so much for watching this presentation. It's my first one I've done over video like this, so hopefully I wasn't too bad, and then I really hope this helped you guys understand TS better, so more kids like me can get the help that they need in the classroom. Thank you guys so much, and have a nice day.